Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tom Baker Show, where we talk nothing but motorsports. And we are glad to have you wherever you're tuning us in from. Thank you for joining us. This show is always being brought to you by MillerTech Lithium Batteries, powering your weekend racing experience, whether you are in an RV or cruising your golf cart around the course. Maybe you've got a boat, or even in your pit area, just helping to power the campsite or pit area piece of it. MillerTech Energy is an Amish-owned company, and everything they do is absolute top-notch. MillerTechEnergy.com is their website. If you use code NASCAR10, they'll give you 10% off your purchase. Jacob Seelman is the editor of SteeringWheelNation.com, who I am so thankful to be able to work with every day. And Jacob, we start with, as always, the MillerTech Monday MillerTech Power Performance Award. And holy cow, this is a particularly tough choice. I feel like these are the Beatles. This is the Fab Four of driving performances this weekend. And I don't know how we got it down to four, because I can think of about three more that could have been on this list. Tell us who we got.
Oh my gosh. I'm with you on this. I had a lot of trouble just trimming it to four in our pre-show discussions this week. But as it is, yes, we have trimmed it to four. Four very different disciplines too. I've enjoyed that we've had that kind of variation here of late in our recent Power Performance Awards. We do have one from NASCAR. I don't know how you can not have first to last to first again in terms of Denny Hamlin, who won the pole for the Michigan Cup race, had to make repairs after some damage from practice and started last, drove through the field, got the lead, and drove flat away to win by 11 seconds, a personal best for Denny in terms of margin of victory for his entire career. 63rd career win tied him with the late Kyle Busch for 9th all-time in the process. More on that later. From the F1 set, I don't know how you can have a Power Performance Award without this kind of performance. The Monaco Grand Prix, Kimi Antonelli, we've talked about him a lot. This is the first time he's popped up in the MillerTech honors. Won the Monaco Grand Prix, youngest to ever do it at 19 years old, started from the pole, led every lap, and set the fastest lap of the race in the process for what F1 fanatics call the Grand Slam. It's his 5th straight Formula One victory, oh, by the way. From the dirt side, you've got USAC non-wing sprint car regular Mitchell Moles, who was under the weather with illness Friday and Saturday night, and still managed to sweep both of USAC's national sprint car events in Sumner, Illinois at Red Hill Raceway. And then from the Indy Next side of things, you've got Miles Rowe, who similarly to Denny Hamlin, he set the fastest time, should have had the pole in Indy Next qualifying at Gateway. They accidentally did an extra lap at the end of his cool-down run, and he was disqualified as a result, so he had to start last, and he only drove through the field and won the thing, too, for his first win of the season. I loved that personally. And before you and I vote on our picks here, Tom, honorable mention in this week's Power Performance Award to the Michigan International Speedway Safer Barrier for its work in keeping Christopher Bell and Chase Elliott from any more serious injury. One of the most vicious crashes we've seen in a long time, and more on that a little bit later in the show, too. But first, Hamlin, Antonelli, Moles, and Rowe. Who and what do you like out of our four nominees?
Well, I'm appreciating my Beatles reference a little more, because I'm just picturing Kimi Antonelli trying to sing John Lennon's parts. But I'm going to go with, this one for me. Denny Hamlin seems an obvious choice, but there's two here for me. Kimi is one of them, because the body of work so far in F1, I mean, 5 straight, he's just on one of those tears. I mean, he's going to set records that may not be broken for decades if he keeps going. And Miles Rose, the other one, because that young man came back after being DQ'd and ended up winning the race. And I think that I'm going to just stay on this side of the pond here, and I'm going to vote for Miles Rowe because I think Miles legitimately deserves this. And I think this is a young man that doesn't get name checked very much, but he should because he's very talented. He's very articulate. And I think Miles Rowe is somebody we're likely to see in the IndyCar field sometime in the next few years.
And viewers of this show know that I'm often partial to my sprint car and dirt folks, but in this case, I actually am with you. And like you, it's very hard for me to not gravitate to what Kimi Antonelli did on Sunday at Monaco. However, the thing that crept into my head with that is Mercedes has far and away the fastest race car right now. And really, from the start of session one all weekend, Kimi felt inevitable pretty much in F1. Whereas to me, what made Miles Rowe's victory so impressive was, especially at a track like Gateway, which the short ovals in American open wheel can be difficult to pass unless you're really good and unafraid to stick it up top, which Miles Rowe did often in that 75 lap race. It's not easy to do what he did, and he did it. The Indy Next field right now has a lot of parity. There's a lot of really, really good cars, and he just absolutely showed out. So you and I are in agreement on this one that it was a very split decision fan vote. It leaned a little bit Denny Hamlin, but this is one of the few times where I vote as the SWN studio that the two of us kind of get to have a little more say in it. And I think I agree with you. Miles Rowe for the Power Performance Award this week, because like you said, he's not a name that gets checked very often. And I would argue, as both Nick Yeoman and Kevin Lee said in the wake of that Indy Next race, he ought to be name checked. And I believe he will, if not a full IndyCar ride, I believe he will be in the 111th running of the Indianapolis 500 next May. His oval chops are too good not to be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think I think this is one of the few times I would also agree with kind of having final decision-making power over the fan vote, because I think the problem is I don't think Miles Rowe gets enough promotion and attention, and so therefore not enough respect for the fans to really realize what he accomplished. So Miles Rowe, I believe, is a great choice to be this week's MillerTech Power Performer.
Absolutely. And before we sidle into the next starting line topic, I want to go back to the safer barrier real quick and just add how thankful I am that we're not talking about, something far more serious and far more grave on this show, because anybody that watched, and I still cringe at a few of those replays and feel pain for those guys, both Bell and Elliott. I don't even know quite how to fathom what we watched. It almost felt surreal watching those replays and watching that crash happen on Sunday at Michigan. It's amazing, I feel like, how far we've come from a safety aspect, because you stop and think about it. 25, 30 years ago, you probably got at least one, if not both of those drivers who aren't walking away from that crash.
Well, that's true. And I guess we should enlighten those who are watching the show that if you hadn't seen it, we're talking about a crash that happened on Sunday in the Cup race at Michigan that involved Christopher Bell. And Chris, and of course, again, what started the accident, how it happened, not sure that makes a whole lot of difference at this point, but Chase Elliott and Chris Bell ended up in the fence, and it was one of the most violent crashes I've seen in the Cup Series in a long, long time. It was close to being head on. And Chris particularly just had a violent hit. And so that's what we're talking about. And the safer barrier actually was dented. And they did the best they could to fix it, but it still wasn't perfectly straight when they went back racing. It's amazing how, that did its job, as you mentioned, because as you say, if that was a concrete wall, I think we could be telling a much different and much scarier story about the results of that crash right now.
For sure. John Padillac and really all of the NASCAR and international motorsports folks that have worked on the safety side just get so much credit from me for what they've done and the advancements they've made to protect drivers, keep them safe to where we haven't had an on-track fatality in 25 years. Sure. And thankful for that. We're sending best wishes, by the way, to Christopher. Joe Gibbs Racing and Coach Gibbs saying after the race that his ankle and his wrist are of concern right now, and they're going to keep evaluating and see what happens from there. But, Chase got loose, washed up, and it took Christopher into the wall. Chase took responsibility, and I think it said a lot that you saw him before he even went to the ambulance himself. Chase immediately went over to the 20 car to check on Christopher because there was obviously no malicious intent. As Chase said, the car just got out from under him and he couldn't save it. And, we saw the end result at 200 miles an hour. I don't want to speak too definitively on this, but there have been some rumblings that in the data collection era, this may have been the highest G-force recorded in a NASCAR
I wouldn't be surprised.
Crash since the advent of data recording. So just a brutal hit, and thankful it wasn't so much worse. Of course, that incident, though, led to what we saw at the end was Denny Hamlin being able to complete the comeback from the back to the front and just drive away and win. So I'll ask you the simple question that sounds simple, but I don't know if it completely is. Is this the best version of Denny Hamlin that we've ever seen? Because it just seems like when I think he can't do any more to impress me, he pulls something like this out of his hat.
Okay, so I think I would like to change best, because what defines best, after all, to most complete, because I really believe that that's what we're looking at. I think Denny Hamlin at 45,
right?
And I'm so thankful that our sport allows this to be the case, to where a driver can start racing at 5 or 6 years old. And then if they're blessed enough to be able to move up the ladder at 45, we can be saying this may be the most complete, Denny Hamlin. And here's what I mean by that. I think he's the most mature. I think he's the most mentally on point now. His mental game has I think crossed the line of excellence from where it used to be. The team is just on all cylinders. They're minimizing mistakes in the pits. Now, Denny's obviously, that start a couple weeks ago that we all laughed at, as he did too. But again, he just goes to the back and just sort of goes, all right, I guess I got to come back from here. And, he just goes and does it. And so this is a Denny Hamlin that I think is really locked in. And he's going to be, as long as the team and the car and the parts and the rest of the rest of it works, he's going to be really difficult the rest of the season, because he hardly has, his only weak spots really are the road courses. And with this new points system, as of the Michigan race's conclusion, he had closed the gap on his driver, Tyler Reddick, to 46 or 51 points. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying 46. It's 51. But basically, one more miscue by Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin staying on the road, and Denny Hamlin's going to be leading the points. And here's the thing, Jacob. At the beginning of the year, when we talked about the difference between this system and the win and you're in one race playoff at the end that we had up until this year, one of the things we said was that, this system is designed to keep the points in doubt right down to the wire and make it fairer for the drivers. Well, then Tyler Reddick goes out and wins, 5 out of 7 or whatever it was?
5 of the first 10.
5 out of 10. And had this huge lead, and all of a sudden, look where we are. That's why I always say when somebody gets on a streak like that, not so fast, my friend. We've got a lot of racing left to go, and the hot hand right now is the 11, and I like his chances to finally win his first championship of the year, or of his career. Why? Because he doesn't have to depend on just one race to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And I look even more focused than just the championship. I like his chances to win 3 races in a row for the first time in his career, because he's already got 2. And we're going to his playground at Pocono Raceway, where he's won a record 7 times. He's been first or second the last 3 years there. And this 11 team is just flat scary right now. Him and Chris Gale have just been on a heater of a run.
They have. And here's the thing. It's basically the Gibbs organization. I mean, Ty Gibbs is running really well. Chase Briscoe hasn't had the results to show for it necessarily as much of the season, but they've all been fast. I mean, that's a tough group of racers right now. But Denny, to me, is the one that stands out in that group. And like I say, it's the combination of the team doing things right, and Denny, even when he makes a mistake, it's like he now has developed finally the ability to just go, okay, done, and just hit reset. He doesn't carry it forward. He just simply goes back to the back, or does what he has to do, does his drive-through, and he's right back in the show. This is a version of Denny Hamlin that I think a lot of people have been waiting to see for a long, long time. And oh, by the way, the Kyle Busch flag that he had put together to carry around at the end of the race was just such a nice touch. I think it really shows you how much he thought of Kyle and how much he looked up to Kyle as a teammate. And even when, at times, maybe when, a little dispute here or there, he recognized the impact that Kyle had on him. And that flag, I think, was a really nice touch as he tied Kyle Busch's wins record in Cup.
Yeah, and just to add, for those who didn't catch Denny's comments after the race, that flag and the hat that he wore is one of one. There will not be merch made of that. In fact, there were like 3 different trademarks that had to be worked out just for those to be created in the first place between JGR, MJ, and RCR. And like you said, I love that it worked out. And by the way, kudos to the Prime Video crew for laying out and letting the moment breathe and speak for itself. Sometimes silence in a picture says everything, and that was one of those moments.
I agree 100%. And I'll just throw this in there. You mentioned Prime. That network, those people that are working on these broadcasts are just absolutely killing it. This is some of the best NASCAR television, and it started last year with Prime, but this year included. This is some of the best NASCAR television I've seen since ESPN back in the day, when I thought those guys were so good. Prime is just doing a fantastic job of covering the sport and making the broadcasts interesting and entertaining and informative, without being over the top or giddy or silly. I just think the post-race show is fantastic. It just very, very interesting. Good to see Martin Truex there.
Yeah, it was.
Fun stuff. I think Prime's doing an amazing job, honestly, and I think they're setting the bar right now for everybody else to follow.
For sure. Last point in the starting line. We had a driver living the dream, literally, over the weekend as Bobby Pierce finally won Eldora Speedway's Dirt Late Model Dream. Came from 13th to do it, took him just 59 laps to get there, but this, Tom, was the race much like the Daytona 500 for Dale Earnhardt or, any comparison you want to make. This was the race that Bobby just could not win. Appropriate, by the way, that car 32 wins the 32nd Dream. Oh, by the way, after winning the World 100 a couple times, the Dirt Track World Championship, a couple of World of Outlaws late model titles. Have we finally brought the circle full here? Is Bobby Pierce's resume finally complete, do you think, now that we've checked that last little box?
Sure it is. I mean, who else in late model, dirt track late model racing in the U.S., who else has just simply accomplished the things that Bobby Pierce has accomplished in a relatively short amount of time?
Yeah.
He's dominated a period here. And, I think, like you said, the 32 is kind of funny. It's tin hat material. No, it wasn't rigged. Bobby Pierce has finally finished the deal. I mean, he's been close how many times? And it was great to see that. Bobby is a class act. That team is a great race team. This is one of those, as you say, it's the Daytona 500, if you want to call it that, for the late models. This is the prize. And at this point now, everything forward for Bobby Pierce, in my opinion, is just it's cherries on top of the ice cream sundae.
Yes. I would say with his dream victory Saturday night, I would go so far as to say that Bobby Pierce put himself on the Mount Rushmore of dirt late model racing, at the very least in the modern era. Yep. With what he's done now. It's him, it's Brandon Sheppard, it's Josh Richards, it's Jonathan Davenport, and it's Scott Bloomquist. Those are my five. If you're asking me who my Mount Rushmore is, those are my five, and Bobby Pierce added himself to that list Saturday night at Eldora.
Wait a minute. The's only supposed to be three.
Four.
Mount
Sorry,
Rushmore,
that's Mount Rushmore is four. Yeah. I know there's four, but I know there's four, but like when you compare those five to everybody else in the discipline, I mean, they're head and shoulder. Those five are head and shoulders above everybody. So I would argue, there needs to be an exception in this particular case.
Okay, so unlike Jacob, I'm actually going to answer the question because I think it's an interesting one. And I'm probably going to get some mail for this, but I'm dropping Scott Bloomquist.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm dropping Scott Bloomquist. When I look at that list and I look at what these other guys have done, and they've done it in multiple cars and situations, in multiple series in some cases, I think this era is super competitive. And if I'm dropping one, I'm dropping Bloomer, and I know that's going to be an unpopular answer, but I'm just going to go out on that limb.
Okay, race fans, you can find him, Tom at, and with that, we'll go ahead and grab the cane, and we're going to throw the
SWN Tom on Twitter, and we're taking a break. We'll be right back.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners. Elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
MillerTech builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. Reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust MillerTech. MillerTech, powering your adventure.
Welcome back to the show. It is time now for our America's Racers segment. And Jacob, what have we got in this segment?
We have got a redux of one of our topics from last week's America's Racers segment because it just keeps evolving. What in the wide world of sports is going on with the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour version 2.0? Because now, in addition to Kyle Bonsignor and Ron Silk, you've added Justin Bonsignor and Craig Lutz to the list of heavy hitters that have stepped away, at least for now, from the tour due to the tire unreliability, we'll call it, from American Racer after the switch from Hoosier to AR rubber this year. That left a very forlorn 19-car field for the Oxford Plains race over the weekend that just got smashed by John McKennedy. Had it not been for qualifying being rained out, he probably would have won that too. So McKennedy seems to be emerging as a favorite, even though Steven Kopsick is still the points leader. But Tom, I think the bigger question I have is, how worried are you about the state of the tour when you've got AR and NASCAR having a tire test at Riverhead and talking with teams and trying to find answers that nobody seems to have put a finger on right now?
Well, for me, I'm looking at this and I'm asking myself some questions. The first of which is, why didn't John McKennedy have issues with the tires? That's my first question. Why did Mark Stewart have issues with the tires at Riverhead? Why is it that you've got 3 or 4 teams that are just so flummoxed, supposedly by the tire situation, that they're basically quitting the tour? Now, I say quitting. They're stepping away for an indefinite or the foreseeable future, whatever they said. Look, I don't want to be disrespectful here, but come on, guys. Matt Hirschman's running on the tires. Everybody, Steven Kopsick's running on the same tires. Steven Kopsick's had a run of races here that would make anybody proud. I don't understand why it's these certain teams, and these are the guys, by the way, at least when it comes to, Justin Bonsignor, this is what, a 4-time championship team?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Okay, I look at this and I ask myself, okay, guys, why can't you figure this tire out? What really is going on here? How bad really is the tire versus how much has the tire sort of shifted what's fast on the modified tour and how you have to manage them, and has maybe gotten these teams so spun out by it that they can't figure it out. I don't believe we're not seeing mass tires blowing. We're not seeing drivers piling it into the wall. Yes, the tires have wear. I've seen Hoosier tires have wear. Goodyear tires have wear. Anytime you switch from one brand to another, there are going to be differences in the tires and differences in how you have to race with them. So I don't want to presume to know all the details here, but I just find it, after half a century of following the sport, I just find it a little bit disconcerting that there's these big teams from the last 4 or 5 years, almost like the bullies now, are too afraid to fight. It just feels, meanwhile, other guys are managing on the tires and winning the races. So I don't really know here, Jacob. I've never seen anything like this before, where, teams are basically boycotting races because you've changed the tire and the tires are just so bad and inconsistent. They may be, but everybody starts with the same barn full of tires. Deal with it.
Figure it out or pack up and go home. And obviously right now, these big teams have decided to pack it up and go home. And I'm going to call a spade a spade. That's a shame. If you aren't man enough to sit at the track and figure it out, or go home and do your homework and get it right, golly, that to me, that's a reflection, and not in a good way, on these big teams, that they're just scared right now to put in the work to figure it out. And I would not have thought that with any of these guys, particularly somebody like Justin Bonsignor and Ken Massa. That team has been the gold standard on the tour for about the last decade. Honestly, it was, between he and when Doug Coby was at his peak, Coby, but really the last 6 or 7 years, it's been about JB and the 51 team. And to see them just not want to figure it out, or, supposedly they were part of the tire test at Riverhead that, NASCAR's using to try and figure some of this out, but just to not even put in the work on the racetrack in race conditions to try and figure it out right now, I don't get it. I'm very, as a fan, as a media member, as somebody who loves the tour, I'm disappointed.
I am too. This feels more like a mental, I don't want to say that mental problems. But this feels more like it's not about the tires themselves, because again, all these other racers are on the same tires. The races are being run. We're not seeing, teams have 3 or 4 blown tires, flat tires. Okay, what they're complaining about is the inconsistency of them or whatever. Well, okay, but again, you have to adjust your driving. You have to adjust your setups. And it just feels to me like this is teams being frustrated at their inability to figure out the tire. And so now they're testing tires at Riverhead. What are they trying to get the tire to do? Are they trying to get it to act and feel like the Hoosier tires they were running a year ago? I don't have any problem with trying to evolve a tire or whatever. Sure. I just feel this is more of a problem of teams being frustrated that they aren't blowing the field away like they always did than it is about actual poor tires. But, we'll see where this goes. I do worry a little bit because the tour's taken a hit here. And again, as we get later in the year and you start, if these guys miss another race or two, they're not going to win the championship. It's going to be really interesting to see where this goes. I'm a little puzzled by all of this, to be honest.
I am too. Quick America's Racer spotlight in this segment before our final break, Tom, and a shout out to the ARCA Menard Series West. Young Cole Denton, the teenager from Mississippi, won from the pole for his second victory of the season over the weekend at Tri-City Raceway in Washington State. How impressed are you with what the former Legend Car standout has done as he's transitioned to these full-bodied cars? Because I'm a bit blown away at just how quickly Cole has taken to this like he has.
Well, first of all, he used to have the nickname Rock and Roll Cole, which there's a couple of meanings behind that, but one of them is he used to sing songs in the race car while he was racing when he was younger, and the other is because he just likes a certain kind of music, and so now I think it's start on the pole, Cole. After he got his second pole award of the season there, and this is a young kid. This kid is just a sponge. I would love to give him an IQ test because he is a sharp young man when it comes to information and how to use it. And he's not. There is nothing that would suggest, if you look at Cole's now, if you just look at his on-track record in Legends and Bandolero, sure, he's won tons of races, but there's nothing. He hasn't had a ton of late model racing. There's nothing that would suggest he should be doing what he's doing in the ARCA West series. But Cole Denton is just one heck of a race car driver, and he's just a super nice kid. I mean, he is as humble as the day is long. He comes from a great family. This is a really, really cool story that, the party of which I was a little bit late to here this year, but seeing what he's been up to, it's pretty amazing, honestly. And I don't think he's done. I think Cole Denton, somebody needs to pay attention to this young man, because if he gets the right training coming up here, the right mentorship, I think we could see Cole Denton on Sundays someday. I think he's that talented.
Final break right here on the Tom Baker Show. When we come back, I'm going to toss the white flag in the air, and we're going to go rapid fire right after this.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners. Elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
MillerTech builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. Reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust MillerTech. MillerTech, powering your adventure.
Welcome back to the Tom Baker Show. White flag is in the air. It is our last lap segment where I get to drive the boat and toss some darts at the dartboard for Tom. First up, the Outlaws, a mistake from David Gravel. Say it isn't so. He crashed out. He crashed out over the weekend at Plymouth Dirt Track in Wisconsin, gave up a big chunk of his World of Outlaws point lead to Carson Macedo and Buddy Kofoid. Buddy was chasing him for the win Saturday night. David went to defend, got up a little high over the cushion and topped the wall enough that he retired and finished 21st. He's going for 3 straight, Tom, but do you think that Buddy and maybe even Carson are finally starting to get into his head a little bit?
Well, I mean, I don't know how the other two aren't in each of the three's head, right? This, again, when you're running this many races in this kind of a series, you're going to have those moments, and all three of them are going to have them as the season goes on. I'm not too worried about David Gravel being somehow mentally distracted by Buddy Kofoid or anyone else for that matter, but I do think that Buddy and Carson, and there are probably a couple of others, honestly, that are capable of going on a streak here. Again, it's a long season, but that was, you're right, it's a rare mistake by David Gravel, but it goes to show you how fine a line these guys are walking, right on the edge of disaster every time they go out there. This isn't the kind of racing where you manage anything except your right foot.
Absolutely. Talking trucks. Corey Heim stole a Craftsman Truck Series win from Caden Honeycutt at Michigan because he's not a regular and Caden is, with a big old aero block that left Caden borderline pissed off, and Heim time basically telling Caden to be quiet and grow thicker skin, to paraphrase. Are you buying Heim's point of view on the battle with Caden or selling it?
Oh, I'm selling it. I'm waiting for Caden to decide not to be so nice to his teammate the next time that happens. And then I'm hoping that Corey will take a little of his own advice and grow some thicker skin and deal with it. Caden Honeycutt needs to do whatever it takes to serve the 11 team. Don't worry about the other Tricon cars. That's Toyota's business. It's not yours. Go out there and do whatever you've got to do to win races. And if somebody gets in your way, deal with them and let them grow the thicker skin and deal with it. No, I think that was a bad block. And look, I'm a huge Corey Heim fan, but he's got to be a little bit conscious of the fact that he's a drop in, basically. And Caden Honeycutt's running for a championship here. So not that you shouldn't try to win races, but don't squeeze them that tight. Next time, Caden just needs to do whatever it takes to make sure the 11 car wins.
Oswego over the weekend. Otto Sitterly in the Champagne Memorial, flag to flag, kind of made that one look really easy. But Tom, I know your bigger story, Andy Jodway. What?
And old Andy Jodway takes 29 years off of competition, actually about 28 years, I think, off of competition, and comes back, runs a few races last year in the FCS class after not racing in well over 20 years, and then comes back and this year and wins. So Andy Jodway, I don't know how many times you see this happen at a short track where somebody wins a race 29 years after he won his last one, but that one was fun to watch. He made a 3-wide Doug Hevron, basically, holy crap, kind of inside move at the end to get the lead, and it was fun to watch. It's good to see Andy back. That class as a whole, it was a bit of a wreck fest with a Cole Trickle wreck right on the start, but Andy got the win. Congratulations to Otto Sitterly, winning the Jim Champagne Memorial for about the 260th time. He's so prepared at the start of seasons. If he had to blow in a motor, I'm convinced he probably would have won last week's race too. And congratulations as well to Talon Hawksby, who led every lap of the 350 Super Modified race to get the win in that division.
Last nugget for you to chew on and get us home. How incredible is what one of our Power Performer nominees earlier, Kimi Antonelli, doing right now in Formula One? Youngest Monaco winner, youngest Grand Slam. I mean, like you said earlier, he's setting records that may not be equaled for decades.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is amazing what's happening here because, first of all, now I've followed Kimi for a few years, and so have you, and we know what he's accomplished coming up through the ranks, but still to go out and do what he's doing at the beginning of your F1 career is pretty amazing. And I know it's a new package for the cars and all of that, but still you got to go out and beat the competition, and nobody, including his teammate, seems to be able to keep up with him right now. And the thing is, as I said in the earlier segment, if he doesn't slow down for another 4 or 5 races, he's going to set records that may never be broken. It's just amazing what's going on with him, but very humble, very deserving, and good for him. It's great to see that. And with that, we are going to throw the checkered flag on this edition of the Tom Baker Show. It's so great to have you all with us. Thank you so much for watching. For more great content, steeringwheelnation.com is our hub, at the SWN Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram. And of course, we've got our community at InsideGroovePitPass.com. And that's a place where you can come and get exclusive content and live events and all of that. So until next time, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for watching.